I'm legally allowed to drink and ride. Woo! I'm just kidding. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm actually on a ride out to the drive test. Why am I heading out to the drive test? Well, I just actually completed my road course to upgrade my license to the full M license, so no more restrictions on me as soon as I do this. And so what does that actually mean? No restrictions? I'm legally allowed to drink and ride. Woo! I'm just kidding. Yes and no. I wouldn't drink and ride, but that's the only restriction when you have an M2 license in Canada is no alcohol content. When you're full M, there is no restrictions other than your blood alcohol has to be under 0.05, I think it is. Under 0.05, there's no fine. Over 0.5, but below 0.08, or sorry, 0.05 to 0.08, it's a fine, and then anything over 0.08 is actually a crime. So for those who don't know, in Ontario we have graduated licensing, and I'll briefly go over that. I've talked about it in the past. Basically, to get your full motorcycle license, you have to go through a process, and the whole process takes really a minimum, I'll say minimum of 20 months, so basically 2 years. And to do it in 2 years, you actually have to do motorcycle courses, and which will be the topic of the video today. Now, so to get your M1, it's called, you have to go to the drive test where I'm headed to right now, and it's a written test. You have to do your M1 G1, which is your general motorcycle or general car license. I don't know why they make you do that. I think it's mainly because it's usually kids that are getting their M1s, and a road sign test. You pass that, you get your M1. You have to have your M1 for at least 60 days before you can upgrade it to the M2. But you have to get your M2 before 90 days, or else you have to start over again. Now, to get your M2, it's a road test. You can either go to the drive test here, book a time, go for a road test, get your M2 from there. Your M2, then you have to have it for, if you don't do a course, you have to do it, you have to have it for a minimum of 22 months before you can actually do your road test to do your full M course or your full M license. And then your M2 you can have actually up to 5 years, so you could actually stay in your M2 up to 5 years before you have to upgrade it. If you wait longer than the 5 years, well, you're right back at square one. You got to go through your M1, M2 again before you get your full M. Once you get your full M, you're done. You don't have any restrictions, and there's no limit to it, unless you have it taken away from you for, you know, traffic violation, not traffic violations, but you know, you've done something wrong and they rescind it. But there's no limitation to it. Each one has different restrictions. So your M1, you can't drive at night, you can't drive with a passenger. There's no restriction on the type of bike that you ride, other than the fact that the bigger the bike, the less likelihood you're going to be able to afford insurance, if you can even get insurance. M2, really the only real restriction is the alcohol. Like I said, you're allowed to have passengers. Actually, funny enough, the only other restriction you have for your M2 is you can't ride a scooter with a passenger. You can ride a motorcycle with a passenger, but you can't ride a scooter with a passenger. Why that is, I don't know. Maybe it's harder. I don't know. I've never ridden a scooter, let alone a scooter with a passenger. So now for the topic of the actual video today. Do you need to do a motorcycle course to get your M? Your M2 or your M? and I'm actually going to split this up into two portions, whether you need to or should you. So I'm mainly going to focus on the M2 exit, is what it's called. So going to your full M license, since the fact that I just did it a couple days ago. So do you need to do it? Now, if you're someone like me, and I'm going to start right off the bat, I'm not a great rider. I don't think I'm a great rider. I'm still a new rider. However, having said that, I do practice a lot. I do take my bike out. I do the stuff that I learned in the first motorcycle course. I do practice. Probably not as much as I should, but I do practice, and I ride as much as I can. Ride individually, and I ride with passengers. Pretty much any chance I get, I'm always out riding. I've logged a lot of. I bought this bike when it had 16,000 kilometers on it. I've had it just over. This will be my third season, and I've put more than that on it already. So I think I'm 18,000 kilometers I've put on this bike already in basically 2 summers of having it. So again, I'm not saying I'm the best rider, but I do ride as much as I can, and I do practice. Having said that, do I think someone like me needed to do a course? No. I could have gone in there and I could have passed the test, because the test isn't, or the ride isn't that hard. Basically, they just take you around, put you on the highway, they tell you to do stuff, they put an earpiece in, and they tell you to turn up here, and they're just making sure you're safe on the bike. You're riding in the right lane, the right tire track, and you're being safe. You know, you're stopping off at all the limits of the road. You're checking your blind spots, checking your mirrors, signaling properly. They ask you to actually stop and do like a, not necessarily emergency stop, but pull over to the side, you know, put it in neutral, put your hazards on, put it down, make sure the bike is standing on its own. Simple things like that, that if you've been riding for a little while, you already know how to do. They've pretty much showed you how to do it. The only things that you might not know are the limits of where you need to stop, especially if there's no actually white line, you know, where you have to stop before a sidewalk, the edge of the road, like that type of thing, you might not know. So if you do ride a lot and you know how to be safe, you're always checking your mirrors, you know, you're checking your blind spots, you're doing all that, I don't think you do need to do it. When we were there at the course, there's only 4 riders and then the instructor. Now, the 4 of us, all guys, so it doesn't matter. Our instructor was female. It doesn't really matter. Some of these guys, you could tell, haven't been on a bike for a while. Now, when we stopped and we were talking, we were having coffee, she actually said we were taking longer in stops because she thought we were, no one scares her. Like, everyone seemed to be safe, everyone seemed to be all right, and she didn't foresee having to spend extra time with us, which was good. Now, having said that, 2 of the guys had rented bikes. They don't even own a bike. And another one, he just purchased a brand new Street Glide. He didn't bring it. He brought his old bike because he's still waiting for delivery. So a little Virago. Now, watching them ride, they look like the way I rode my first year. Because they really didn't ride much. Well, I say that they didn't look like they rode much, and the reason I say that is they were still stopping, both feet on the ground. Which she, right off the bat, she's like, you don't do it. I mean, it's fine if you're going to tip over, you know, you have to correct yourself every once in a while, that's fine, but you know, the proper way is having your foot on the brake and your 1 foot down. And she said it just looks better, right? So that's why I say they looked relatively new. Now, having said that, one guy just spent 6 months in Southeast Asia riding motorcycles for 6 months, and I was so shocked because he rented a V-Strom, so it was way too tall. Well, he's a tall guy, but it's a tall bike, and he was struggling on that. You can tell he wasn't used to riding a tall bike, so you can kind of forgive him that, but he was safe. The other guy has actually had his motorcycle license in 2 different countries and had to go through this process when he came here because he didn't have his license in either country long enough for them to just issue him a motorcycle license. So he actually got his license in Australia, and then he moved to the States, and he tried getting it in the States, and he had to go through a safety course. So then he got it in the States again, but never owned a bike in the States. And then he moved to Canada, and since he didn't have either one for a year, they made him actually have to do the M2 course again. Now this guy was kind of scary. Like right off the bat, he got yelled at because we're riding in our group formation, and he's way the hell back there. So she's like, you got to be up here. You can't be lollygagging way back there, because you know that lets cars come into our group. We don't want cars coming into our group and splitting us up. We want to stay together, right? And you know, he was really unsure of himself, and he was on a small CBR 300, I think it was. Yeah, I think she was on a CBR 250 and he was on a 300. So again, he rented it. The bike was leaking oil. She almost wasn't going to let him ride because it was kind of sketchy, right? So he was going back to try to get his money back for renting him a bike that he couldn't. He almost didn't get to write his exam, and like the whole point of doing it was to actually get his license. But anyways, and then the third guy that brought his bike, he was actually from Ottawa, great guy, but he didn't ride much. He was he got his license and everything. He rode a little Honda, an old '84 Honda, and then he's riding this Virago. I mean, he was very safe. He was an ex-cop. The only thing is he kept putting his two feet down. So having looked at that, and she wasn't concerned of how we were riding, I can't imagine some of the people she probably sees because they take the full day to go over things. So they must see some real strange people that come out there. So in the end, do I think you need to do a course to do the M2 exit exam? It's going to be a 3-part answer. If you've spent the last 2 years riding a motorcycle, doing all like practicing stuff, no, you probably could get away with just saving your $400 or $500 for the course and just riding it. If your goal is just to get your M license, I think you can skip it if you spent your time. If you haven't spent your time with your M2 riding, getting to learn all the different skills that you learned earlier, yes, 100% I think you should. The whole day is just spent basically prepping you to do the test, so there's like 0 chance you're gonna fail. Now, for someone like me that's always trying to improve, I have tons of stuff I need to learn. I found value in it. The $400, $500, whatever the course was, I found value in it. Some of it, yeah, it's boring. Yeah, everyone knows that. Whatever. But at the end of the day, you're paying $400 or $500. One, yeah, you're getting your motorcycle license, which you probably, I think it's $25 or $50 if you just go to the ministry to do it. But you spend the day going for a ride. I was riding around Etobicoke, just outside of Toronto, which I never do. Spent the day with four other riders, three students and the instructor. I mean, what better way to spend an afternoon? So I think there's value in it. So at the end of the day, it's up to you guys whether you think it is. I may even actually film a video of actually doing the course that I actually took down in Etobicoke and just kind of walk you through it. I don't know. I hate going down to the city because when I was done the course at like 4 o'clock that day, it took me forever to get home with all the traffic and everything. So I would prefer to be out here in open roads like this instead of city driving. But that's just me. So yeah, there. So what do you guys think? Do you think you should take it or not? I think it's a great idea. Anyways, until next time, later.